And of course, this week is when the delegation from Iran is going to meet with the American delegation in Vienna. And isn't that so coincidental that we just happen to know someone in Linz and the surrounding areas that'll probably be in Vienna? Mr. Keshe, are you going to be involved in that this week? I think they were talking, was it Wednesday or Thursday? That the negotiations would continue, although the article I read said the Americans are going to be there, but they're not going to participate. Or maybe they're just in the background. Not that I'm asking for any precise details or anything, but apparently things are going forward.
There is a meeting set up for Vienna. We know of it for about a week, but we just gotta wait. Just gotta wait, because the present Iranian government has no right to negotiate. It's just a meeting. The strict instruction from His Eminence Ayatollah Khamenei is that there is no negotiation. They are just talking, and as only 1 month of the present government left more or less in power, they have no rights to conclude anything. So we're just waiting. We wait to see if the only move will be what we suggested, but we'll see how it will go. End of sanctions without question. But that's something on the card. See what happens. Nothing more can be said till. And Vienna is not coincidental. You were very correct. And we'll see. At this moment, we know that the Iranian delegation has no right to negotiate. It's just listen. They're going there to listen. And the instruction to what to do has already been decided.
I can see the other governments lining up as well to want to be involved with Iran, as well as maybe they don't voice it publicly, but we all know the reason why certain people are at the negotiating or table right now, because of the advanced technology that you have provided back in, was it 2008?
There is more to it. There's much more to it. At the moment we are on the threshold of very right-wing, what we call parliament, to come in with what we call, they're already been elected some time ago, but now the government to be elected will be very, very far right in doing things and achieving things. And the whole structure of Iran is set to change, because a number of leading clergy in Iran have connected in public. I've got some of the writings I can put up, you can read. They have connected the end of election by appearance of the Messiah, or Mehdi. And this has raised a lot of questions in what we call in the world of clergy in Iran. And a number of couple of more leading Ayatollahs have announced in past, literally a few days, past couple of days, that by the end of the elections, which is in May, they expect the appearance of the Messiah to appear, because it's the time which has been promised for it. So there is a lot of work going on in the background in what we call in the world of the politics and science in Iran. But we have a strict instruction not to negotiate. The negotiation, the group coming in cannot sign anything, cannot agree to anything, because Keshe Foundation laid out the principle of the negotiation, and we try to stick to it till unless Ayatollah Khamenei decides otherwise. And we are not negotiating. We are there to listen, primarily to listen. But the layout says it's pre-agreed how it's going to be. The biggest problem now for the West is part of the diplomacy of the 400 million or 400 billion signing agreement with China. And China is one of the members of 5+1. And China agreed not to do anything as long as Ayatollah Rouhani is in power. And now they know he's gone, or he's going, he's a lame duck around the mud. They signed an agreement that with the new government coming in, already have been negotiated with the new government. The 400 billion is an 18-page comprehensive negotiation. In a way, it's totally what we read into it is not to the benefit of Iran, and Rouhani signed it off in a hurry to do it. But with it, he takes a lot of bribes in the background on the oil of Iran. The reason he pushed the 400 billion is his signature bought him billions of dollars of bribes. We open this book very soon. That's why that agreement was signed so in such a rush. He's given all Iranian rights of oil to the Chinese. Literally, he has sold out, but will not go through. Is signed by Foreign Secretary who has betrayed Iran many times, Mr. Nazir, and has to be ratified by the parliament, which will not be ratified. We have assurances that the 400 billion will not be ratified in the parliament unless a lot of things have changed. Anyway, we'll see. But there is a reason for it, why the negotiation is since Vienna.
Could you give us a definition of an Ayatollah? It's a religious leader?
Ayatollah is like an archbishop. And Ayatollahs are specifically to the Shia sect of Islam. And they are specifically brought in by the knowledge of what they know and how they are ranked by their peers. You start being a layman priest, and that way you become what we call a hund, and then according to your knowledge, how you explain the meaning of the verse of Quran, and then if you are very knowledgeable, then you write a parallel in your understanding of the whole of Quran. And when you write that book, then the others read it and they say, yes, he's become mature enough in the faith or whatever, they accept you as somebody who's knowledgeable in understanding of the religion. And when a number of priests, or what you call Ayatollahs who've been elected before, sign your book that you understood, you are, then you become Ayatollah. Means you become the head of the priests. And each district, like you have an archbishop of, let's say,
Canterbury,
and then you have an archbishop of blah, blah, blah. These are, and then you have one head, which they accept to be higher than the others. And this is a ranking within the clergy in the Shia sect of Iran, or what do you call it, Islam. The others stick to Imam. Sunnis carry with, they have an Imam or chief Imam. But in Ayatollah is specifically means given the gift by God, if you translate it that way. And Iran in its history has had a lot of problem with this process and the way that the British have broken into this rank. And there are histories in Iranian history that some of the Ayatollahs, which were elected or selected to become or were agreed to become, were not actually even Iranian, or they did not even understand the verses of it. They were hiddenly brought to that position to buy or being put in position by the British to influence the direction, because it's a very powerful position, especially when you reach a position like Ayatollah Khamenei. You literally, the rest of the structure listens to what you, even there is a division. So it's just like an archbishop, and in a way you reach the position of to be the pope in the Iranian dimension. But each country has its own, each Islamic nation has its own Ayatollah structure and the rest. But the Iranian system is inbreed of a specific way of what they call it, blend of religion and hierarchy. We cannot execute Ayatollah. We cannot kill Ayatollah. We cannot imprison, but you can house prison Ayatollah. And we've seen the history of this with Ayatollah Khomeini. He was given the position of Ayatollah Khomeini, and then he had to be sent on the exile. He could not be executed by the ex-Shah because of whatever they accused him of. Then when he was in exile, he did whatever he did and he came back to Iran.
And
We've
this,
seen that in the archbishop business and the bishops in the Western Europe. The structure of the Islamic religion is very much parallel to the Western Christianity. Very, very much parallel.
and it seems it would be a natural to refer to you as the Mekti because of the knowledge you carry. I mean, you carry the knowledge of the universe.
There is a lot of things going on in Iran at the moment in respect to what is about to happen. We keep out of it because that's their decision. We go a different way. But there is a lot of acknowledgement that the process is about to happen. And it's within the clergy. That they expect a change after the election. And in the recent speeches, we hear from the high-level ranking clergy in Iran that such a thing is about to happen. And they're expecting it this year, it's not in the future.
And haven't the rabbis in Israel referred to you as the same?
That is to do with sits with what we call the Jewish structure. There is a parallel process which has started, and if you read, I don't know if you received the last communication of the Ayatollah Khamenei while we were teaching a few weeks ago, the beginning of the speech starts in a way to talk that the one who will come will unite the human race and bring and has an influence internationally, and it's about to happen. So we have to wait and see the process. But in the structure of the Iran today, the number of leading colleges have announced this, the possibility of there. It comes in coincidence after the elections. We have had two such a report 2 weeks ago and two recently in past 48 hours.
And would you accept this mantle, or this is not correct?
This is not correct. This is not. We are not here to claim, we are here to unite. And this will take a lot of time. We have to see how the new situation rises in Iran. At the moment, next 60 days is what we call a very fluid situation, because it's like what we saw with Trump in the last weeks of his position. He tried to do a lot of things, but with this current situation, we know more or less who's going to be the next Iranian president. Extremely far right, to the benefit of Iran, and very much in line with the thinking of the Keshe Foundation, and very much in line with putting the betterment of the society ahead of nationalism, where we will see we see new style of management, very much forward-looking, outward-looking, and very much open-minded towards the Iranian society as a whole, not protecting dogmas of the past.
So this will work. In other words, you've referred to the Vice President Harris as a very far left, even to the communist. And now you're talking a far right in Iran. Is this, and I'm hoping it will work, is this compatible?
We don't see a conflict there. Far-right nationalism in the internal affairs. On the other hand, American situation is far left in international affairs. They are two opposite things.
Okay.
And we see it, and we have seen Biden moving in the direction of very much following the path of Obama in the past few days. And we have to see how he responds. We will see Iranian leaders in the White House in a very short time. That's for sure. And we will see American leaders in Tehran. That's for sure. The time of the conflict and carrying on with this nuclear business is over, but we have to see how it will be resolved inside Iran in respect to many things.
So with President Putin moving right now with this Donbass situation and the Ukraine situation, is that any concern?
No, really, our more concern is what's happening between Putin and Biden. If Biden doesn't change his position in what he's taken in past few days, I think we'll see a rapid cool down in the affairs of the Russians and Americans, if he doesn't take his word back what he said.
Yeah, they're talking about going to this DEFCON 1 and then it'll all be glossed over.
No, but what he said is out of character.
I agree.
And out of position for a world leader to make another world leader accuse him of such a thing, what he said. When you accuse another world leader of same caliber as high as you as a murderer, it's a big, big backwards step. And Biden has done that.
Do you think it was him or one of his doubles?
Doesn't matter which double. This is not what you put against another world leader. as we said in a very recent communication, if Putin has done what Biden accuses of him, Biden as a vice president has done tens of thousands times more. But this is something for them to discuss, but it doesn't look good. We expect a lot of move, but it's the usual transition in every year when you have the first year of the number of world leaders change in this year after the American election. And these are key positions world leaders will change. We most probably see in Germany, we most probably see in Russia, change of leaders. And then we have to see what is the new setting comes into. Putin is about to end, German Chancellor is about to go. And we see how they interact.
Hello, Mr.Keshe. Here's Andreas speaking. Can you tell us which role Vienna plays, because they are a point of meetings, international meetings, and why here in Vienna?
Keshe Foundation requested the meeting to be in Vienna because we cannot move. That was one of our requests, original requests some months ago. Because of the corona, and secondly, there are a lot of things happening. We have to see. At the moment, we make requests, but we never know if it's because of our request.
And why it's also in the past, 10 years ago, for the nuclear contracts with Iran and USA and so on, a place where they meet all the time?
This is the point where it's comfortable to work. Vienna is a very comfortable position for us to carry out the new situation. Don't forget, we have called for a meeting of the world scientists in late May, maybe early June in Tehran. And the whole thing is in progress. We have to see how far we can get it going and how many people we can bring into Tehran. But this is all, Iran has just come back from what we call 2 weeks of national holidays, finished on Friday. And we expect to see the moves in the next few weeks. That's what is set to come in to take shape. If Keshe Foundation be appointed to enter into negotiations, we know the terms is pre-agreed, and the Americans don't want the Keshe Foundation. What we announced, we agreed on. We saw the rush for this meeting in the past 2 weeks. Since 4th of March, I laid out the way we see and the way we open the Iranian nuclear industry. It all coincides with the announcement of 4th of March that we will open Iranian nuclear technologies for teaching. And this is what they are trying to preempt in the negotiations of Vienna. But the decision sits with Ayatollah Khamenei, not with the present regime in Iran. We have to wait and see, because there's a lot of things needs to be done before Keshe Foundation can be on the table of negotiation. There's a lot of moves which is taking shape, but we don't need to be in negotiation. We always work outside the negotiation, but set the terms. The first 5+1, ending up the negotiations. the present new negotiation. The structure is how the world sees itself at this point in time and where we can go. And we have no choice to go. I mean, from Tuesday onwards, you will see a lot of changes moving around the world, what we call economy, and in a way of scientific influences. On Tuesday onwards, you will start hearing a lot of changes will take shape. You got to realize that when you speak about NASA, they are stuck in jet propulsion. They're not going anywhere. The plasma technology is years behind, and it needs a boost, it needs a change. And I think it's better the way we set it out to distract the humanity with a new knowledge than what Corona has brought. There's a huge number of scientists who can do a lot. With changing course into a space. If the world government distract the world to a new science, a new technology, and instead of arms putting a space ahead, then we have a solution. We definitely have a solution. And this is the way it needs to be taken, what we call position. But you have to understand there is a problem, there's a huge number of problems which needs to be sorted out, needs to be ironed out. We shall see, we just gotta wait and see how situation builds up in Iran and how, from the cash management point of view, how we increase our influence and work internationally within ourselves, not outside.
Mr. Keshe, this is Ed. So my question is, and you kind of addressed it somewhat, but we know it's going to take a long time for the religious and political structures of the world to come to grips with the changes that are happening and to make adjustments and stuff like that. But you were talking also about the foundation's ability to work outside of this. And from Tuesday on, we would see great differences and stuff. But that's the essence of what I keep wondering is how much does all this political and religious feet dragging and time that's going to be taken and stuff, how does it impact the introduction of the technologies to the humanity?
It goes its own pattern. I always say we are impatient. Everything takes its time. Everything needs its time. I remind in knowledge seekers continuously, people around me, just needs time. Everything will happen on its own time. We want to push it, we want to bring it forward, we want to change it, it won't, because it's a structure which it's got a pattern to it. And it's, when it comes to the right, what we call time, it takes shape with the way it should be. We can't push it, we can't, just because we want it, it won't happen. It's where I requested the meeting of the negotiation to be in Vienna some months ago, 2 or 3 months ago, because it was the easiest for us to be part of. And there is a lot of question marks in how negotiation will take shape. How would the diplomats interact with each other in such a large numbers, in such a place? These are all, there are reasons behind these things. We will move on, and the right time, right place. You will see huge changes in the coming time. We work as an independent organization, but we work within the structure of the government, within the structure of the political structure. I have requested from, it's very coincidental when we receive information. I was explaining to knowledge seekers. We have requested for a meeting with Vatican, with the Pope, on an emergency basis. And we don't expect that meeting to take place, but there's a reason we asked for it in past 48 hours, because Vatican reached us for a different purpose after we explained the situation in Iraq, why the Pope has been there, if you remember. Vatican has reached us directly through our intermediary in past few days. And we have asked a face-to-face meeting with the Vatican, with the heads of Vatican, to discuss the matter. Nothing is coincidental. And we'll see how it happens, because we exposed the clandestine activities of Vatican, and they saw immediately response to their actions in Middle East faster than they could think. It was not possible, and they realized there was a factor in this operation. But we'll see. We are a scientific organization with a lot of inside knowledge.
Mr. Keshe, for many in the world who have, let's say, taken a vacation, and now they're rethinking it, and maybe because they were trusting and innocent, they went ahead with this. Is there anything that, and I know you said there were gifts in there that will manifest in a few years or less. Is there anything that we can do? Or I know you said it was the soul's choice, but nothing's hidden from the soul, so the soul would know. But on our end, is there something that can be offered down the road, perhaps?
We are all in the process of what we are a chain lock. And in this chain lock, we're all, as is old say, as strong as the weakest link. And the process, maybe I'll put it to you a different way. Maybe by mid-June, we'll get a very good, clear indication of where the world will go. By mid-June, we will see a pattern will emerge, most probably mid-June, July. And this pattern will bring what I call a setting for the rest of humanity for centuries to come. We will see, we hopefully should see a start of a consensus that world economy will change and world leadership will change. But that's that's what is said to be done. After 21st of March, everything has moved in a very, very positive direction. As we said, it's a change, and the change has started, and we see a lot of things in the background moving. There's no way, there's no chance that mankind will go into the wars that we've seen, and there's only solution left, what we're going to do with this position, with this new position that we cannot fight anymore. Putting Vatican initiated a war in a trip to Iraq, which was immediately nipped at the butt. And the Keshe Foundation was the main instrument in doing it. They're very open about it, very, very open, very direct. The Vatican planned a huge next step war in Middle East, and they went to finance it. And this is the way then the rest could follow, and that would not. This was a very dirty game, which was played by Vatican and immediately stopped. This is the next step, what we're going to do with all these assets. Huge amount of knowledge and technology, companies which can deliver a space technology on the edge and develop that way, where there is no more wars. And this is where the new proposals will come through. We just got to wait. There is a huge gap in the world leadership, huge gap. We have world leaders, but we don't have a world leader of the caliber to bring all of them together. And that sits with the Keshe Foundation to bring that position. And we cannot miss that opportunity. We have President Xi, we have new American leaders, but none of them have anything to bring the change to lead. And it needs an insight to step further in peace and development, and needs a new style of leadership, uniting and dividing. We shall see how it shake shape and how it will be.
Were there
Mr.
any more questions about the Pope not wearing a mask or anything? It's not because he left it in the Pope mobile or something. Has there been any explanation about that? I didn't see anything in the press.
In
or-
many places, he left it every time he left the Pope mobile. No, there is a there's a bigger picture of work, and we'll see. We have to be very aware that there is a need for a change, because maybe they can push the situation by another few months in respect to Corona, but what if after 6 months, after a year? How come people freely live in China? 1.4 billion people live more or less with no restriction. How come it's only in the West which is taking shape in this way? And forcing the biggest problem the world sits with is the head of WHO. If that gentleman is put into prison and with its allies or taken off the table, we'll find out the whole of Corona situation will collapse. If the team of WHO has been taken off and replaced with a new team from World health authorities, there won't be any situation with corona. We are hijacked by one man who's actually done many atrocities. Read about his lifestyle. How states of the United States speak about equality, speak about everything else, and allow people with a tainted background to stand to become WHO, head of WHO. How can we allow these kind of things to happen? How we allow nations with more crime to lead us? This is all, there's a need for a change, and a change from not fighting it, but setting up a new way.
So you're saying in China, there's no there's no lockdown anymore? They're
No.
free?
More or less, our team is traveling everywhere. The whole of the Keshe Foundation team has traveled within the breadth of China in past 2 weeks. Our team is freely flying all over the place. I think the head of the Keshe Foundation in China has been home for nearly 3-4 weeks, more than 2 or 3 nights. She's due to be in Beijing to meet the Beijing officials on behalf of the Keshe Foundation. She's on the train, she's on the plane, the whole of Keshe Foundation team from Hunan to what we call Shenzhen, the whole have been traveling all over to China. No, there's no such restriction.
And there's no such vaccine passport or something?
No, nothing. We're opening a 17,000 square meter factory floor in China in next few days. One of the largest operations of Keshe Foundation in the Chinese territory is sealed to open up. We're opening new acquisitions for the Keshe Foundation in China, which we announce a new product which will be extremely revolutionary in the world of corona. Again, we acquired 51% shareholding in a company which is set to become part of the major part of the Keshe Foundation operation. And our team are literally flying all over.
When you said you were observing people that had the corona, that got over the corona, I would imagine using the 1 cup, 1 life system. You said they became very peaceful. Were these people that got over it on their own, or just the ones using the plasma technology?
We are looking at the one who got over the plasma technology separately than the ones who had and got over it. You will see the new Keshe Foundation factory it'll be one of the most advanced layouts of the Keshe Foundation. We try to replicate that across the world. It embraces everything now in gas production to production of hardware and everything else. And we bring the new space technology into it in conjunction with the Chinese, what we call leadership and space technology of China. In the next few weeks, there will be a joint collaboration between Iran and China in space technology.
So if the others don't sign up, they will, as you said, be left on the donkey.
We are starting to take nor China nor Iran, but the humanity into space, but in a different way. But you have to rely on the people who have the resources to initiate it.
Mr. Keshe, what's going on in Africa? There seems to be quite a push there for, shall we say, a different kind of identity from that continent. But there are a lot of people who have the wherewithal and capability to, shall we say, make things happen. But,
we cannot, this is part of the structure, we cannot separate Africa and we cannot make it exclusive. Africa has a typical problem of its own and has to be handled in understanding the problem of Africa. And it's not easy. Africa is not easy. Africa is as difficult as India. It's a diversity of many, many cultures, which is the color of gold is the richness of the continent, which brings the corruption in that continent. That's the problem with Africa. They're easily bought. Easily bought. I worked in Africa since 1980s. And it's a pattern of the continent, how they work with African leaders. And the Europeans have understood how to literally herd these leaders. We don't have independent leaders in Africa. You got to understand the West Africa and East African coast, how it's been set colonially in the past century, especially past half century, or just about 3/4 century, how one man changed the shape of running of Africa in favor of British government. It goes back early last century, if any of you know about what is known as the Tiny Roland. Tiny Roland bent, and any chief of African tribe said, put your children in a school, private school in England. And he brought many chief sons, many chief sons into Europe, into England in private education. And then these guys went back and became the chief of their countries. The chiefs more powerful than the presidents. And Britain runs West Africa and East Africa this way. We see Central Africa, Central's what continent, mainly run by French. In one place by one or two others. But all the coastlines are run by, mainly by British influence placed and internally run by what we call Tiny Roland operation. Many of you might know a chain group called Harrods, which the famous guy, the Egyptian, took from arm purchases. He was part of Tiny Roland structure. And then he betrayed Tiny Roland and took over everything else, we know, with his son, with Diana, and the rest of it.
Yes, I even heard they had set it up so the different countries there had different size railroad tracks, so they couldn't link up with one another. So
Yeah.
yeah. Go ahead.
Africa, whoever took money did what they wanted. I work in Africa deeply since 1980, early 80s. Part of the work, my work in Africa and in China, is due to cooperation with Tiny Roland. That's how we know inside. My original operation to Africa and East Asia or Central Asia when the Russia opened up has been in close collaboration with Tiny Roland Group. So I know the structure. My business is run through this structure, so we know exactly where we are and how the operation works. They talk from inside, not from outside.
So Al Fayed was part of the Tiny Roland structure at one point.
It was a guy who sold arms for the British, and Tiny Roland was instrumental in his initial steps. They crossed line, that's how he went as part of the revenge he went for Harrods. Tiny Roland was my lecturer in university. That's how I came to know the structure. He was my professor.
I have to ask you then, what is the future of the educational system, particularly the universities? We have online teaching, and the students can't go to the classes, and a lot of the knowledge is now on the internet. And
This is a prelude to what's going to happen to us in space. How are we going to educate our children in space? Maybe tens of years on travel. How are we going to? We are learning actually because of Corona a lot of things. How are we going to live in space? It's teaching us a lot of things. And we learn a lot in this process. How do we educate our people, our children, on the world of spaceships if we choose a physical way of travel? In which shape or form do we teach the Chinese children on board the Chinese way and the English one the English way, or we develop a universal teaching that everybody gets taught the same way as we do in international schools?
well, it's not an easy thing, and I'll tell you that for sure. I have to put a lot of time and thought into that, and I'm just basically, shall we say, in the dark, and then I'm just navigating basically through osmosis.
The new program, which is getting written by officials for the Keshe Foundation teaching, international teaching, is taking all these things into consideration. It's written, it'll be completed on the basis of KFSSI, that anyone from any language can come in. No barriers with the language or anything else. And we've been told by end of this month, we have the theory patterns of it laid out, and they start writing the computer programs for it. It will cost hundreds of millions of dollars to be done, and it's been gifted to us as a new way to teach. Is given as a gift by a nation to us, and we have a very direct say in how it's done, the security of it, the interaction of the teachers and everything else. We were told about it last June, July, in a meeting with the heads of the university. And now it has taken shape, the programs start being written. Teaching online internationally from age of 3 to more or less 30 into research, it's the backbone of the new space technology teaching. And we have already started the process. We will look at it hopefully in next 2 weeks, how the program is, have written the theoretical program behind it, and then it takes a few months to actually write the program. Completed, then KFSSI will be built, the structure of teaching of KFSSI and the KFTV will be brought into it.
Well, this is great news because only advanced knowledge can do advanced teaching. And,
It's written by the elites of a nation, computer programmers. And these guys are also some of the best. You will see part of them in the origin of the structure of the Keshe Foundation, IT, in next few days. They will come in the background, and the new programs for Keshe Foundation, IT will be written by them. You'll start seeing changes in a lot of directions, and they have joined us. They start working inside the organization to learn, to understand, and then the program will be written inside. It's not something to be happening, it already is happening. It's just been, I think next 2-3 days, they will take their position actually inside the foundation without anybody knowing. Will start writing of the programs.
well, this is great news because we.
It's a great gift. We've been gifted by leaders of a nation, and we accepted, and they put the people in position to do the job.
Well, thank you very much.
So, Mr. Keshe, I don't understand exactly what you're talking about. I'm sure it will be told to us when the time is right, but I kind of thought that the new way of teaching was at the soul level, and the development of our soul would enable us to communicate more freely on a, to understand things better. But you're actually talking about a computer program or a way of teaching that's not at the soul level, I think.
We teach on both levels. The teaching of this on the soul level will come very, very much when we stop the people who divide the physicality and the soul for their benefit, unite in the right way. And I said, we see that around June, July. You have to change a lot of things to be able to reach, achieve something. But this time it has to be done the way it's taking shape. Any other question?
Mr. Keshe, good evening. Keiko was from London. A happy belated Sizde Bedar.
I hope you noted it very well.
I'm not what, sorry.
I said I hope you made a very good note.
Yes, yes, my kids and we did, yes. And I wished for this year to be a very productive year for humanity to catch up with the peace and harmony. And in particular, whatever you laid out and set out to be achieved in a speedy manner. And with the grace of God, that will be achieved. I had a question, maybe a little bit out of line, but we hear about these nanobots and these worms bots, so they speak, which is attached to these PCR testing kits. Is there any way we could, do they actually exist? And if they do, is there any way we could get rid of them? Because I've just realized my second daughter has been using it 4 or 5 times already, because since she started school, college, it was part of the conditions for them to do testing twice a week with these kids. And it's been having me really worried with these nanobots apparently attached to the end of this stick when you put it inside your nasal or your throat, and it will rub on and then it will get inside your body and it spreads on. So I'm not sure if there's any truth in it. And if there is there any way we could get rid of it with the plasma cup one or any other way? If you have any input.
There is a lot of allegations, there's a lot of talk. I received a number of pictures and videos of worms moving and all sorts. And we cannot confirm or deny because we don't see what is going on. But hopefully by this Thursday or latest next Thursday, if everything goes according to what we're doing, Keshe Foundation will announce a new frontline work in respect to Corona International. We are in a signing agreement position, and if we agree, if we come to final agreement, Keshe Foundation will enter this arena in a very, very subtle way. We announce it. But this again goes back onto our operation with the peace talks and everything else in one go. It's just, we are on a very beautiful way, even to change this testing and masks and the rest of it. But we keep quiet till we are actually in position. And internationally, we'll change this. We announced a change, a big change in the back of the what we call the 2020 Iran report. Next step in maybe 3-4 weeks time, you will hear a breakthrough it'll be as part of the Keshe Foundation products will be announced. in respect to these tests and these preventions. But nobody knows. I've seen videos from Germany, which the worms are moving on the masks, and I've seen germs moving in the pot tests. But I go back on my what I call experience and understanding the way the economy works. When you create such a demand for these things, anything goes, anything will come, can deliver, will do. And especially products from the governments or countries which are in a rush to deliver, a lot of things are overlooked. Then this will most probably will change in China first, and then we come to the rest of the world. And there should be a process that can control these things. We've seen this when I look at these videos which sent to me, and I look at with the worms moving in the masks and worm moving on top of the tip of the testers and nanomaterials like they say is in there. It brings me back memories of the 1980s. A few times we had these experiences, especially when China was in developing position. And a lot of these masks are coming out of China with a lot of problems. A lot of these testers are coming from companies which have no hygiene background, even though they're supposed to be pharmaceuticals. The hygiene is zero, but in the atmosphere it's supposed to be hygiene. Is there a nanomaterial? To what extent? What does it do? There is no confirmation of any of it. And nowadays everything is possible to be made. In 1980s, many of you remember, we called them the snowballs. Where you used to shake and you get the snowflakes coming over Father Christmas in a ball, if you remember. Very innocent looking game, toy or whatever. We all still use it, some of us as a weight holder on the paper in our offices. When they originally came out in the 1980s, nobody could think that they were one of the most deadliest materials ever came into the market to damage the health of people and children. And we had to withdraw huge amount of it out of the market overnight because the factory in China used the most contaminated waters. They never thought that anybody was going to use it for anything else. And some of them had a thin glass and they broke, and the glass wasn't a problem, but the water contamination brought horrendous diseases into Europe, which the health authorities jumped on it. They banned the import of these things. But by the time it came, a large number of people died because of these weights, snowflakes, because of the water contamination. And if we see, when I saw these videos, brought me back the same memory. In the rush to fill in the gap in the market, there's a lot of things which is not looked at. Hygiene in some of the Chinese factories is absolutely negative than actually zero.
So, Mr.
And
Keshe, my apology. My apology. You don't think these nanobots are deliberately put onto these testing kits? Apparently, one of the
well, the thing is, who has seen them? How can we confirm them?
Some people have seen apparently on the microscope. I can't verify that, but I was told.
We've seen a lot of things nowadays. You can put something on the microscope and then say it's there. The process of developing these things, what it's supposed to do. there is a lot of side effects to it. There is a lot of dangers with this new game, but who's controlling what is, or is it? Does the manufacturer confirm in their packaging there is nanoparticles on it?
Apparently not. There were just nanobots in place onto the testing kit. And this testing kit.
But have you seen one? Because I've seen one of the knowledge seekers in Germany, it's actually videoed worms.
Yes, so they're worm bots and nanobots. And apparently they get directions from radio frequencies and they're assembling our body.
We do not know. We do not know. This is, I've seen these videos. I guess send is like a sugar punch.
I shouldn't be any concerned about my second daughter.
Don't think so.
Thank you. God bless.
No, I don't think so. Means I can't make a comment because we do not see.
Mr. Keshe,
Yes.
England, France, or the English language, the French language, and the Spanish language does not have a UC representative.
Pardon?
English, French, and Spanish do not have a UC representative.
England, French,
and Spanish. There are no UC members. Why is it that the three of the most important languages on this planet, with all respect to the Far East,
we haven't received application forms.
I have applied.
If you have applied, it has to go through process of the security clearance.
I've done that sometimes in I think it was last October, November. I've mentioned it once, and some of the UC members said that they're going to look into it, but I haven't had any any reply.
Let's look at the rules and regulations of the UC membership. One of the UC members have to be born or be their first mother language.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, because you see, in what we call Earth Councils, you got to be after two, or one born in one and live in the other. There's a reason for it, but Universal Council have to be in the mother language, and if you do not fulfill that, the security clearance does not accept it. The French, we had a woman, I think she's resigned or she's still in position. And we were very carefully monitoring who was applying to be the Universal Council member. We have received a German speaking, wanting to be. We have received a request from a Swiss German who wants to be German speaking for Switzerland. These are all going through, as far as I know. But you have to be an original French speaking, or what you call English speaking born native.
Ironically, my problem is my Persian is not up to the scratch. Unfortunately, being 41 years in London has taken away my ability to speak Persian fluently. Well, my English stinks, but my Persian is not far behind.
Yes, that is nice and that is beautiful, but is the way it stands and the way it will take shape.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. The UC members, from what I can see that we have right now, are working very, very hard, and I salute them. So we need more of the good stuff.
Any other question?
Mr. Keshe, I want to thank you very much for all your hard work and your vision. And I want to thank all the members who have come today for the North American Corona team meeting, which is actually an international team meeting. And I didn't think the meeting would go this well. It's been an excellent day, and I thank everyone for putting up with me. And Mark, you've done a tremendous job as well. I'm going to sign off and hand it over to you and allow anyone else to come in. Thank you again. Thank you again, Mr. Keshe, and all the members.
Yes, thank you, Alex. And thank you, Mr. Keshe. We owe you a huge debt of gratitude. Continually, our eyes would have never been open to any of this. We would have continued with our lives, going on, trying to get things or be somebody, and have no awareness of this other whole dimension. And we hope and we will share it with the rest of the planet. I want to thank you deeply. If anyone else would, sorry, go ahead.
Thank you very much. It is a way we have to understand how to find a path through and how we will see the way through. But sooner or later, there's a very peaceful way set to go forward for all of us. We'll see how we achieve it and how we get there.
You are a most beautiful soul.
We're all there to serve, and that's how we work.